Do you want to know which players are set to absolutely smash in Week 10 for fantasy football? Well, we're about to tell you. Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre. He's Chris. We're here, as always, with our weekly boom picks. That's right. Those are the players we think are going to go off and secure some big point totals for you. Before we get into that, let me remind you that we are now sponsored by Manscaped.com, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. It's called the Performance Package. You can join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. Use promo code ENDGAME. You get 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Again, go to manscaped.com, promo code ENDGAME. All right, time for the picks. Chris, who do you think is going to go off in Week 10?
Well, I've never been a big Juju Smith-Schuster guy. I thought coming into this year, maybe it could happen simply because he's on the Chiefs. He has Patrick Mahomes, and Tyreek Hill, left, obviously, with that trade. Start of the season, didn't really look like it was going to happen, and kind of just was like, never felt like it was a sure thing here. But man, over the last 3 weeks, it has happened. It looks like these two guys finally have that connection. They're finally on the same page. Maybe he understands his offense finally. I'm not sure, but 3 straight games of 18 or more PPR points. He's gone over 88 yards in each of those games. He's gone over 100 yards in 2 of those games. He looks like an absolute monster in this offense, pretty much hitting the ceiling that anybody could have absolutely hoped for, myself included. And now he gets a great matchup this week against a Jaguars defense that not very good against the pass. We just saw Davante Adams obliterate this defense in one half of football. Juju Smith-Schuster, by far the number one target guy in this offense. It's basically him and Travis Kelce. MVS hardly gets the ball thrown to him. Mecole Hardman, sure, he runs in a touchdown sometimes, but that's all he really does. Kadarius Toney didn't even play 10% of the snaps last week. It's pretty much Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster, and that is it. And this is an offense that throws the ball a ton. They don't run the ball. He's got an elite quarterback. He doesn't just have an elite quarterback. He has the best quarterback. Juju Smith-Schuster has smashed 3 weeks in a row, and he's in a great spot to smash again. If you've been riding him, start him with confidence.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people might be a little bit down on him the last couple of weeks because they added Kadarius Toney. But like you said, hitting his stride midseason, maybe we all underestimated him. All right, so I'm going to talk about a Browns receiver. No, Deshaun Watson's not back yet, but it doesn't matter. We've seen Amari Cooper has been reliable all season long, and now he's going to be rested coming off of the bye. Well, he's also coming home, sort of. Amari Cooper, who played his high school ball in Miami, he is going to face the Dolphins, and we know this Dolphins defense just not good. All right, let's just face it. Their offense has been putting up a lot of points because they've had to dig themselves out of holes constantly. So this is not a prolific passing offense, but it doesn't matter because Amari Cooper is the 1, the 2, the 3. He's everything in terms of passing targets for this offense because that's kind of all they got. I don't know if David Njoku is going to be back this week. Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't matter. Even when Njoku was in, Cooper was still seeing wide receiver 1 type opportunities. Okay, so we know this Dolphins defense has underachieved. Xavier Howard, who was a Pro Bowler, has been banged up, ineffective, hasn't been himself. There's nobody who's going to take him out of the game. And look, even with the fact that the Dolphins, let's face it, have had a pretty easy schedule for the most part this year. They face teams like Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett, Detroit, Chicago. Look, put up a bunch of rushing numbers on them with Justin Fields. This is a team that is giving up a lot of yards, period. When you have a team that can actually pass the ball with an elite receiver like Cooper, I don't think anybody is going to stop him. So I feel a smash game coming. We could see some long touchdowns. We could see a little bit back and forth if the Dolphins are able to keep up on offense. But long story short, there's no reason to sit Cooper in this game with this matchup. All right, let's keep going. Give me another boom pick for Week 10.
When your Dolphins traded for Jeff Wilson Jr., I figured it probably spelled doom for Raheem Mostert long term. I didn't know it would spell doom for Raheem Mostert the very first game that Jeff Wilson played. Now, granted, Jeff Wilson didn't completely own this backfield in the first game, but the fact that he had the same number of carries as Mostert and more targets than Mostert in his very first game when he just joined the team pretty much midweek, that is a bad sign for Raheem Mostert, but that is a great sign for Jeff Wilson Jr. because you got to think his role is only going to expand here in the second game with the team, a full week of practice with the team now. And look, he knows this system. He knows this offense. He was with Mike McDaniel in San Francisco. Mike McDaniel knows Jeff Wilson. He knows his strengths. He knows how to use them. And he gets a great matchup this week on the other side there. You talked about Amari Cooper. Great matchup for him. But what about the Browns? Bottom 5 run defense this year. This is a great spot for Jeff Wilson. He can hit huge chunk yards in this game. And we know in this offense that just moves the ball up and down the field, he has touchdown upside every single week. And he's involved enough in the passing game to give you that floor with the upside. So I think Jeff Wilson Jr. this week, I'm not going to say he completely pulls away from Raheem Mostert, but I think it could be closer to a 55-60% share for Wilson rather than a 50-50 share. And if it is, in this matchup, he has a chance to absolutely boom in week 10.
Cannot disagree. And look, I did have Mostert booming last week. It took me by surprise. Did not think Wilson would be that involved that soon. I think it's pretty telling. And you should be a little worried about Mostert going forward. I don't think he needs to be dropped everywhere, but obviously not the lead dog anymore. Clearly the lead dog in Houston, no questions asked, is Dameon Pierce. And look, he's kind of been a borderline, no doubt, must start every week. It's hard to completely put your trust in a guy who plays for the Houston Texans, but he's getting the touches, the volume. He's been super effective, averaging 4.6 yards per carry, despite playing on the Texans, a team that really has almost no threat of a passing game. And, he's coming off of his best game of the season. We ran for 139 yards last week. Well, now he gets to go against the Giants, who, look, credit to them as far as putting together a pretty effective defense, but they are much stronger against the pass than the run. This is a team that allows the third most rushing yards per carry. Dameon Pierce is going to get fed the ball because at this point, that's basically their only hope of even being competitive. I don't care if Brandon Cooks plays this week or not. Does that really make a difference? Has it made a difference all year? They're going to keep feeding and feeding Dameon Pierce, and he will be very productive. This is going to be a very fun to watch showdown between Saquon Barkley and Dameon Pierce. Now, I do know that Pierce kind of popped up on the injury report midweek. It doesn't sound like that's something that's going to limit him. Of course, always check the injury reports and we'll see what happens. Well, this is a physical runner. He's going to show up from time to time. He's going to continue being physical, and that's why you have to love him, right? He's not a guy who is, maybe I'll just go ahead and name call a guy like DeAndre Swift, who is going to be sitting out and limited all season long with the same type of injuries. Pierce is a guy I'm not worried about. He's going to go out there and compete. So Pierce, I love him this week. I'm putting him in everywhere possible. All right, one more boom. Who you got?
I got another running back coming off the bye, and that is Tony Pollard. And I know people are going to see that Ezekiel Elliott is back, probably, and they're going to think, oh, man, that just kills Pollard's value. But I disagree. Number one, we've already seen Ezekiel Elliott has a knee brace. He's wearing a knee brace in practice. He's got a knee injury. There's already talk that maybe he'll play, maybe he won't. It doesn't sound like Ezekiel Elliott is anywhere close to 100%. And I could see Ezekiel Elliott not having, a huge workload in this game because of this knee injury. And Tony Pollard is a guy who doesn't need, 20 carries to pop off. He can hit an explosive play, a big run at any time. And this Green Bay Packers defense, they're kind of like a run funnel defense. They're not as bad as, say, the Chargers or the Texans, but they're much better against the pass than they are against the run. This is a game where Tony Pollard could absolutely break off 1, 2, maybe 3 big runs. Even if Zeke is out there getting, his usual 3 yards in a cloud of dust, doing nothing to help this offense, Pollard will have enough opportunities to hit on a big play, potentially score a touchdown. Look, it's not going to be as good as it was, before the bye when Zeke was completely out, but I still think it's going to be a great Pollard game. I think if you got him, you ride him again.
Does anybody outside of Jerry Jones really want to see Zeke go out there each and every week? I know in fantasy, probably hardly anybody does. And then my last pick is going to be a guy that, welcome back, Cordarrelle Patterson. We are glad to have him back because, man, it's tough to find a reliable running back these days. You got one who had been on the shelf for 4 weeks. If you stashed him in IR, you were glad to see he was back. Didn't get a huge workload last week with 13 carries, but maybe that's good because it'll keep him fresh the rest of the year. So what he did do was score a couple times, completely obliterated a defender near the goal line if you saw that touchdown. It was a great matchup, talked him up, and a lot of people asked a lot of questions. Do I trust Cordarrelle Patterson this week? And I think pretty much every time we said yes, you should be starting him. I'm definitely starting him this week because even though you might look on paper, well, the Chargers' run defense is worse than the Panthers, who are on deck again. Patterson didn't face the Panthers the last time these two teams played because he was still hurt. Well, you know what? Patterson is still the guy who's getting the goal line work. Patterson now, second week off of injury. I think we might see him ramp up a little bit more. And also, I feel like, maybe after watching last week, the Panthers offense, maybe they just don't have it in them to be as competitive anymore. I mean, this team now realizes there's not a lot to play for. I feel like the Falcons, with their really good offensive line, their commitment to run, they will keep running the ball no matter what the score is, and the effectiveness of Patterson, who you might not realize is averaging 5.4 yards per carry this year, and in only 5 games played, has 5 touchdowns. You have massive touchdown upside. You have great efficiency, a team that's going to give him the volume, and a pretty good matchup. All told, we could see another touchdown or 2 from Patterson with even more yardage than last week. All right, guys, those are our boom picks for Week 10. Don't forget to check out everything else we have to offer. Start sit advice, trade advice, waiver wire advice. Right here, our playlist for Week 10 will have you covered.